I'm Morgan. I collect vintage yearbooks, I do baby name consultations, and look into historic naming trends. And today I thought we could take a look at the top 1,000 most popular baby names from 1918 and decide which girls' names were popular back then that are no longer ranked today that are overdue for a comeback. The first is the name Linnea, or outside of the United States, you might hear this one pronounced more like Linnea, and this is the floral name. It's actually from the last name of the botanist who named the flower after himself. And this one hasn't ranked in the top 1,000 since 1955, but it's actually currently ranked number 32 in Norway and number 12 in Finland. Next is the name Valley. It hasn't ranked since 1927. This one for me feels very naturey, obviously, because of valleys, but the spelling's a little bit different, and girls' names with the letter V are very trendy at the moment. I share Valley on my TikTok every now and then, and I would have to say this is probably the most beloved name that I've ever shared that gets very positive feedback. The next one is actually a little trifecta of names, and that's Golden, Golda, and Goldia. So we saw Goldie fall off the top 1,000 in 1958, and then it re-emerged onto the top 1,000 last year, or I guess in 2021, which is the latest data that's available to us. And it re-emerged in the 800s, which is pretty rare. Usually when you see a name emerge or re-emerge into the top 1,000, it's ranked in the 900s. I anticipate the name Goldie just continuing to grow in popularity. I actually see it pretty often when I do my intake forms for my name consultation on the list of names that parents like but might not end up using. So Golden last ranked in 1921, Goldia in 1925, and then Golda in 1936. And with the renewed interest in Goldie, I could see any one of these or all three taking off again. I think my best bet is on Golden. I could see kind of like trendy, like influencer type moms really liking that for their sons or their daughters. The next is kind of a wild card, and that's the name Malvina. This is actually an invented name by a Scottish poet named James Macpherson, and it never gained too much popularity in the United States. In fact, it only ranked in the top 500 a single time back in 1883, but I do think it's very pretty and underrated. And like I said with the Valley, the letter V is pretty trendy right now, and this sounds very feminine and sweet but still grown up, and I think a lot of parents are really considering that. Names that sound very cute on a little girl but also carry well into being a woman. Willia last ranked in 1945, and we've seen the name Willa take off really recently. In the last decade it's jumped about 600 spots in popularity. I think Willia is just as pretty. It's a little maybe quirkier than the name Willa. I could see this one following in suit and chasing after Willa's popularity. Arlie stopped ranking as a feminine name in 1922. This one actually had more staying power as a masculine name, staying in the top 1,000 until 1962, save a few years here and there where it fell off and then re-emerged after a single year absent. But I think Arlie could definitely make a comeback. For me, it's like kind of very cool, like not trying too hard. So it's like Carly, but you can't be bothered to say that sound on it. And then Ira was actually considered a gender neutral name until it fell off the top 1,000 in 1947, and it's currently in the 800s as a masculine name, but hasn't ranked as a feminine name in what would that be, almost 80 years. I think Ira just sounds so soft and so cool for either a baby girl or a baby boy. I would love to see this come back for girls and gain popularity for boys. I think this is a very underrated name. And then speaking of names that are popular for boys that kind of fell off as feminine names, what about the name Leo? This actually ranked as a feminine name up until 1920, and now it's a top 50 boys name. It never was more popular as a feminine name than a masculine name, but it's kind of more accepted as being a gender neutral option, and we haven't seen that in over 100 years. And if you don't want to go full send and name your daughter Leo, you could do something like Leona or Leoda, or even it could be a nickname for Eleanor. It's more of a stretch, but I think it works. And the name Theo, we have seen blow up for baby boys, jumping over 700 spots in just a decade, and Theodore entered the top 10 this past year because parents are loving to name their sons Theodore and call him Theo. And Theo actually ranked as a feminine name until 1930. I could really see the name Theo coming back as a gender neutral option within the next few years because it's soft and sweet sounding. It doesn't sound overtly masculine. Plus, traditionally masculine names for girls are really having a moment right now. And like Leo, if you don't want to go full send and just name your daughter Theo, you could do Theodora or Theodosia and use Theo as a nickname. I have seen a lot of interest in vowely girl names with lots of L's in there, and Eulalia hits the nail on the head. Eulalia is a Greek name and actually has almost a dozen different acceptable pronunciations. Eulalia is the one I'm most familiar with, but in some pronunciations, instead of oo, it's like a U, and instead of Lalia, it's Lalia. This one's kind of a mix and match and choose your own adventure name. Similarly is the name Lula. It follows the same trends, but it's a little less of a mouthful, and this one last ranked in 1965. We've been seeing the name Lola gain some interest, and currently Lola is ranked 260. I could see Lula following in its footsteps. Celestine. This one I think is so underrated, so beautiful. Parents love love the name Celeste. If you want to add just like a little extra pizzazz to Celeste, you've got the name Celestine that last ranked in 1963. This is another one I talk about fairly often on my TikTok because I think it's just gorgeous and I love to bring it up when it fits the video. And this one also gets just such positive rave reviews in the comments. When I share this one, I know people are gonna love it. Phonetically similar, or at least the ending is the name Delphine, and this is a French name. It last ranked in 1962. I just love how straightforward and like no frills it is, but it still sounds so feminine and so pretty. And phonetically similar to that is the name Delta that hasn't ranked since 1934. I hate that the airline is called Delta because if the airline didn't exist, I think Delta could gain a lot of popularity, but the connection there I think is going to hold people back. But if it weren't for Delta Airlines, I think Delta would definitely be in the top 1000. A name that's always controversial when I share it is Maud, or you might also hear this one pronounced Maude, depending on where you are in the world. This one people either love or they hate, and I feel like no matter what, there will be a fight in the comment section about it on my TikTok because the people who hate that name want to comment about it. The people who love the name want to fight the people who hate it. So it's always one I share sparingly because I'm not always equipped to handle the drama. And finally is the name Novella. This one last ranked in 1942. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. I think parents who gravitate towards Nova but maybe want to give their Nova more options could go with the full name Novella and call her Nova, and as she grows older she can decide if Nova feels right or maybe she wants to be Novella or Vella or Ella or Novi. Lots of options with Novella. I would love to hear which of these names you liked, which ones you didn't, maybe what your favorite vintage name is. Like I said, these are from the 1918 Top 1000s list. I'd like to do another one of these videos focusing on like 1898 because there's actually a pretty big disparity in what names were trending back then, just over like 20 years. So thank you guys so much for watching. I share more content like this on my TikTok every single day. The username is HelloMorganTimm. If you want to see more of this, please subscribe. That helps me so much. You can share this if you know anyone who's expecting a little girl and wants a vintage name, and I'll be back next week sharing the boy name version of this video, and I hope everyone is having a wonderful week. Bye!